Woohoo! Happy Friday! You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We've got so much to get to, and I'm just going to jump right in. You guys can always text me 309-451-9299, and you can find me on YouTube and subscribe to the channel today, or on Rumble. I'm also on Facebook. Look, folks, the city is defying Donald Trump's mass deportation orders. It's DeKalb, okay? So outside of Chicago, we've got other cities defying the Trump deportation orders. A lawmaker, and I'm going to get to him in just a second, suspects that prosecutions will follow. Says, look, it's not really worth it. You're going to risk your job. You're going to risk getting prosecuted. You're going to get your federal funding cut. Why in the hell would you defy these Trump mass deportation orders? I also want to get to this really interesting bill, and I think that if this were to pass, which I don't believe it will here in the state of Illinois, but this is definitely a way to combat these outrageous properties. They're just completely outrageous, these property taxes at this point. And there's a state representative, his name is Brad Holbrook. What he wants to do is pass House Bill 1497, which essentially freezes property tax levies at the 2025 amount. So the town of Normal, they're increasing it by 5%, which I don't understand why. Kathleen Lorenz, actually in a candidate forum, she said, we're going to get an extra $700,000 and we don't know where we're going to put that money. So like these people are making money hand over fist. They have no idea what to do with your money. Wouldn't it be so nice to be so rich? You wouldn't know what to do with $700,000. Like you have no idea how to spend it. That's how rich the normal government is. Okay, so it would be so nice if we could freeze those tax levies at the 2025 amount and ensure that 2026 through 2030, they don't raise the tax levy. Like you can't raise it. Okay, and that's not asking for a whole lot because you can just keep a flat tax rate or keep a flat tax levy, and you're still going to get revenue. That's the thing. Even if you keep it flat and you don't increase it, you're still getting way more money because of the assessed value going up naturally. The property's assessed value is going to be going up. So you're going to be making a ton of revenue still as the government. So there's no reason, one, for increases at all, I don't think. The bill's sponsor, State Representative Brett Holbrook, said nearly every local government can figure out how to save money, and they need to find efficiencies and stop unnecessary operations. That's what needs to happen. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, Pam Reese doesn't need to make over, I think she's at 300,000, maybe a little over $300,000 a year. I got to go look up her salary. It just continues to increase. Folks, for perspective here, we're talking about $300,000. The president, I'm pretty sure, makes like $400,000. Okay, the president of the flippin' United States. It's comparable. The salary of the city manager for a town of Normal, which doesn't even have a population of 100,000. I mean, give me a break here, folks. This is insane. So yes, there is definitely ways we can cut and find efficiencies and stop unnecessary spending. I do also want to talk about this loser kid. Now, he was big news back when January 6th happened because he ratted out his father. He sold out his father over January 6th. I guess he was there, and then he's been sitting in prison for all of this time. And now this kid is coping with his dad being pardoned by President Donald Trump. So he got on CNN, of course, and said that he's, paranoid that his dad has now been released by President Donald Trump. Like, give me a break. These poor hostages served 4+ years in these awful, awful prisons, like just disgusting conditions, inhumane conditions. And I'm so grateful that Donald Trump, this was one of his first executive or one of his first actions as president. Hey, let's pardon the J6 hostages. All right, let's get into it. Just hours after President Donald Trump took office, we, of course, have the DeKalb. Now, this is a northern Illinois city. The city manager, his name is Bill Nicholas. He issued a statement about the police department's role in supporting federal authorities and carrying out these mass deportations. Okay, the statement said that the department operates in conformance with the Illinois Trust Act. What is the Illinois Trust Act? Well, this is an act that they passed under Governor J.B. Pritzker's administration. And what this Trust Act, it's the Illinois Trust Act, what it is, it prohibits and prevents law enforcement from assisting immigration agents in any kind of way. That's what the Trust Act is. Now, State Representative John Capello, Republican, he's a law enforcement officer as well, he said that you're a criminal and the Trust Act is thrown out the window. As soon as you're a criminal, the Trust Act is thrown out the window because the way he interprets the Trust Act is that, hey, the moment you cross the border illegally or you go through an illegal port of entry, you're considered a criminal, and the Trust Act does not apply to you. The Trust Act only applies to civilly, right? Civil things. So, like, if you're not a criminal, if you are an illegal immigrant, or if you're a legal immigrant and then, do something civil, like, I don't know, something worth a civil suit, then the Trust Act applies to you. But if you're a criminal, not only, you're a criminal illegal alien, but also, on top of that, you're committing heinous crimes like kidnapping, rape, murder. We know Gabriel Calixto is in that camp, right? Gabriel Calixto allegedly murdering Emma Schaefer and is on the run. Here's what Capello said. He says, you can try and hide behind the Trust Act, but the Trust Act, in my opinion, is more on the lines of civil things and not criminal things. If you're here illegally, that's criminal. I don't foresee that there's a police department out there that's going to cooperate, that's not going to cooperate with law enforcement agencies, federal law enforcement agencies. Okay, so he suspects that there aren't going to be police departments. Now, what's interesting is that the city manager released this of DeKalb and not the DeKalb Police Department. So it's still unclear. I mean, I don't know if they're going to operate outside of the city manager's wishes, but that's why it's so important for you to elect the mayor, a good mayor, so that way a good city manager is in there, because the city manager actually has a ton of power, obviously, in DeKalb, because he can speak on behalf, I guess, of the police department. So Cabello says he doesn't foresee that there's going to be a police department out there that's not going to cooperate with other law enforcement, with another law enforcement agency, because police departments just don't do that. But he also says anybody in their right mind is not going to just not help get violent criminals off of the street. And that is what ICE is doing. That is what the federal authorities are doing. We're talking about violent criminals and getting them off the street. I think yesterday they did 300 deportations, which I know doesn't sound like a whole lot, but they're chipping away at this, and they're starting with the very, very violent criminals. And he said that's what's taking place with the Trump deportation policies. Cabello says, look, that's what's going on. And I highly doubt anybody in their right mind is not going to help get those violent criminals off the street. The police departments will help if there's, somebody with 17 convictions. We're going to get to this guy here in a second. He, yells profanities about Donald Trump and says, thanks Obama and thanks Joe Biden for all that he's done that they've done for him as he's getting deported by ICE agents, which is absolutely hilarious. But reportedly, another part of this, CPS, so Chicago Public School System, the CEO, Pedro Martinez, said ICE agents aren't allowed into the district. Now, I talked about this in Colorado. You had superintendents directing school teachers and school leaders on what to do if ICE agents show up to the schools. Apparently at CPS, ICE agents are not allowed to enter the premises without a judicial warrant. And even then, CPS, they're directed, the school leaders are directed to call general counsel or call the lawyers, the CPS lawyers, to find out if this judicial warrant is valid. So you say to the federal authorities as a school leader or principal, hey, you have to stay outside and you have to wait until we call our lawyers to see if this judicial warrant is legal. And they're not cooperating really with federal authorities. But here's the thing, folks. This is kind of stupid. Cabello says he doesn't foresee federal authorities coming into schools to try to speak to a child or try to take a child away. He says, I don't foresee federal authorities doing that in any way, shape, or form. We're talking about they're starting with violent criminals. Nobody's going into the school districts and pulling children out of school and deporting them without their mom and dad. Okay, so this is just complete fear mongering with CPS, issuing all of these policies of what to do if an ICE agent shows up. They're not going to be showing up to these school districts anytime soon. Now, take a listen to this. Capella says, quote, "These folks are trying to make it seem as though the federal government and President Donald Trump, President of the United States, these are horrible, horrible people, and that they're going to come into your school and then they're going to snatch your child. People just need to stop and relax and realize that they're going after the worst of the worst right now. Relax. Unless you're the worst of the worst, of course. And I hope you're terribly nervous, and I hope you're very, very nervous. So they're going to be going after the worst of the worst. And then, unless you're the worst of the worst, you have nothing to worry about. If an ICE agent shows up, CPS lawyers are available via a 24-hour hotline, folks. So Chicago Public Schools, they've taken tax dollars, set up this hotline. They're paying these lawyers to field phone calls from school leaders that call them to determine if a judicial warrant from ICE agents is valid. I mean, this is ridiculous. So Cabela suspects that police departments and municipalities will lose their federal funding if they don't cooperate with the federal immigration authorities. Nicholas is his name, the city manager of DeKalb, said in a statement that they're going after non-criminals would destroy the trust of residents that they need to have with the police. Okay, that the residents need to have trust with the police. Look, folks, you're going after criminals. They're trying to make it seem, and in this statement, of course, the city manager of DeKalb is trying to make it seem like they're going after, non-criminals, non-illegals, and that they're deporting anybody of color. And that's just not true. Anybody who has a different color of skin than white, okay, that's what they're trying to make it seem like, and that's just not true. Cabello said the Justice Department has said that any state or local official that wishes to stand in the way of deportations will be prosecuted. So, if you want to risk jail, if you want to risk your career to save these violent offenders, go on ahead. But that's what's going to happen. You're going to lose your job, and you probably shouldn't have been in that job in the first place. If you're willing to lose that job and go to jail to protect violent criminals, who cares if you're prosecuted? Who cares if they throw you in jail and you lose your career? You shouldn't be there in the first place if you're protecting violent criminals. And if these agencies don't want to assist the feds in doing what they need to do, especially with violent criminals, then they need to deal with not having federal funding either. So, like I said in this statement that this city manager of DeKalb put out, he said that the police department aligns with the chief of police association in their compliance with the Trust Act. The Trust Act says that, these federal authorities can't, or that local law enforcement can't work with federal authorities. And Capillo said not all police chiefs would agree that the act applies to illegal immigrants, criminals. Okay, not all police chiefs agree with the Trust Act. Yes, this Chiefs of Police Association is, taking the position that they're not going to assist federal authorities with these mass deportations. The Illinois Chiefs of Police Association, but look, folks, it's an association. It's a special interest group, and they're not representative of the whole. And Cabello says, I can tell you that there's tons of police chiefs that don't agree with that, and that they will be working with federal authorities to get violent criminals off the street. If anybody looks at the Trust Act, it's really talking about civil things. It's not talking about criminal stuff. There's no reason why you would be protecting violent criminals and criminals being the people who enter the country illegally and don't have an asylum claim, don't have a court date or anything like that. That's what we're talking about here. That's who we're deporting first. Here's what the statement says, the DeKalb statement. You'll love this. You'll get a kick out of this. They said that they need to focus on reducing crime and enhancing quality of life rather than deporting illegal immigrants who have prior convictions, because that's what we're talking about right now. So they're saying we need to focus on reducing crime. This would reduce crime. It probably would make crime obsolete if you got rid of all of the illegal immigrants who are got rap sheets the size of a CVS receipt. I mean, give me a break. Here's a quote: regardless of anybody's immigration status, the DeKalb police will always help those in need, tend to victims of crime, and work with local agencies to assure the health and welfare of those we serve. You can tell that somebody who doesn't have any policing background wrote this statement, this DeKalb statement. It's really not about, I mean, I guess the health and the welfare. Really what this is about is getting criminals off the street, okay? Tending to victims of crime. It's almost written as if this, I wouldn't be shocked, I'd have to look it up. Bill Nicholas works in the healthcare industry. Yes, you tend to victims, but your main priority is to stop the bad guys. That's what cops do. They stop the bad guys. And yes, you tend to victims, but I would almost say that's secondary to stopping the bad guys, okay? You tend to the victims, but you stop the bad guys first. And yeah, the way this is written, you can tell that it was written by somebody who is not in law enforcement. And definitely the city manager, I mean, come on. This is why local elections are so important, because the city manager is almost always appointed by the mayor. So you have to elect a good mayor. All right, I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I'll have to take a look at it. Did you send me it on Facebook? I'll have to see. I don't know if you sent it to me on Facebook. Oh, yep, I think I just see it. Yep, I'll have to take a look at this. But incredible how, Governor J.B. Pritzker, we talked about this yesterday, how he's come out now and said that it's unconstitutional, the ending birthright citizenship. And I debunked that the 14th Amendment has two criteria, bottom line, birth or naturalization, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which was explained by the framers of the amendment back in the 1800s. Hey, the subject to the jurisdiction thereof means that you have to be a citizen, okay, and that you have to have allegiance to this country, so you cannot be a non-citizen, and you're not considered a citizen until you pledge allegiance to the country, and through the naturalization process, that is, that is what you do. You pledge your allegiance to this country, and then you can't have parents who are not either, naturalized or born in this country. So you have to have parents who are naturalized or born in this country. So birthright citizenship is not a thing if you truly read the 14th Amendment. So I think it's hilarious that Governor J.B. Pritzker and other Democrats are out there saying that that's unconstitutional. Look it up. Actually, Michael Anton has a great, you know what? I'm going to find the clip. I'll find the clip and share it with you. You guys will actually get a kick out of this. Michael Anton was on with Tucker Carlson like years ago, and he kind of debunked the whole, birthright citizenship is what the 14th Amendment says, and we should be pro birthright citizenship. Actually, no. That is not true. So let's take a listen to this. Here we go.
Michael Anton is a former senior national security official in the Trump administration, a lecturer at Hillsdale College, and probably the first person in this generation to raise the question of whether birthright citizenship is indeed constitutional. Thank you very much, Michael Anton. You wrote this piece that I think began this current conversation this past July, and people were stunned to find out that this was not a settled matter. Most people believe this is etched on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, but it's not.
Right. And I do want to give credit where credit's due to people that I learned these arguments from. John Eastman,
yes,
a constitutional scholar and lawyer, litigator. He litigates constitutional questions. And Edward Erler, who's a student of the American founding and the Civil War era, who's done the scholarly work on this. I learned this argument from them. They're two of my teachers. But it's true that, it had kind of gone dormant for a while.
Dormant? This is Flat Earth Society stuff. So everyone believes that we have a constitutional mandate to allow the children of illegal aliens to become citizens.
And they base that belief on a misreading of the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. They leave out the part in the middle, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They either leave it out or they say subject to the jurisdiction just means you have to obey the law. Well, everybody has to obey the law. If you're a tourist coming from England or Canada or anywhere, you have to obey U.S. law while you're in the United States. That doesn't make your children a citizen or you a citizen. Subject to the jurisdiction meant something specific to the people who wrote the amendment. We know this because they said it. You read the debates over the amendment. They said it means that you don't owe allegiance to any foreign power, to anyone else. You're subject to the complete jurisdiction of the United States, which means you're not a citizen of another country. So it clearly doesn't apply to people who aren't citizens or who are born to people who aren't citizens, who are subject to the jurisdiction of another country. The Constitution is clear on that point. There's no statute that says otherwise. But decades ago, the executive branch agencies of the federal government just decided to apply this principle as if, well, we owe everyone birthright citizenship. Now, why do they do that? Why do bureaucracies typically, in our country anyway, typically act without authority? Usually it's to serve the interests of liberalism. When the administrative state starts doing something that it's not authorized to do and that no one has ever told it to do, you can bet it's not doing so for conservative reasons or for reasons that benefit American citizens. It's doing so for reasons that benefit liberalism. And that's what happened in this case.
So you're hearing the argument now from the usual chorus of dumb people that this, like everything that they don't like, is racist.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of this amendment was to enfranchise people who had been African Americans
Yes.
who'd been enslaved.
Absolutely.
And so in what sense would this, I mean, does that argument even make sense?
No.
And I want to take it seriously.
As you say, though, it's the racist is just a cudgel with which to beat up people whose arguments you don't like. So the 13th Amendment freed every slave. You had a controversy at the time where some states were saying, okay, you can free the slaves, but we have the power to make them citizens, and we're not going to do it. So Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the same Congress, same year that drafted this amendment. That was vetoed by President Johnson. The veto was overridden, so you get 2/3 of both houses saying, free black slaves, they are citizens. And that also says not subject to any foreign power. Well, then some of the southern states came back with, okay, well, 1857, the Supreme Court ruled in Dred Scott that no black person, even a free black person, could ever be a citizen of the United States. So the Reconstruction Congress said, okay, then we're going to put this in the Constitution. We're not going to let you get away with this. We're going to make this undeniable that every freed slave and their descendants are citizens of the United States.
So an amendment designed
Yes.
to enfranchise African Americans born here, been here 400 years, 500 years, is now being used by Chinese nationals
And Russians, too.
Russians flying into Guam or Los Angeles to have.
Woo! Hey, welcome to the Red Kingdom. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 News and Talk, Bloomington Normal. You guys are always going to want to find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble to check it out. Check out, exclusive content on the stream. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about the 14th Amendment and how it actually is constitutional to write an executive order that stops birthright citizenship. A lot of people don't understand that there's two criteria to becoming a citizen of the United States. One being you're born or naturalized in the United States, and so it's not or, but it's and you have to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So not just born, but you have to be born and not have allegiance to a different country or a foreign country, which means you cannot be born to parents who are non-citizens or have an allegiance to a foreign country. Okay, so the 14th Amendment is very clear about birthright citizenship and that it's wrong. It's not just being born here and you have to be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And Michael Anton, you guys can look it up. He was actually on Tucker Carlson a few years ago. And he talked about this, and it's a great clip. It's a little bit longer, but dig into it and try to find out for yourself. That's what I like to do here on this show, Conservative Cat, is to equip you with the materials, and then you make up your own decision of what you believe to be, true and not true. Hey, here's the information. Here's what it says, the 14th Amendment. Here's what Michael Anton, who is a Hillsdale College, researcher and worked with the Trump administration. And he said, look, it's very clear. The framers of the 14th Amendment, when you look at the primary documents where they recorded the debates, they talked about people being born to non-citizens and those people not being citizens of the United States. So before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this House bill that I don't think is going to be passed. It's 1497. There's a few bills I actually want to get to. State Representative Brad Holbrook, he filed 3 bills that seek to lower property taxes in the state of Illinois. If you live in the town of Normal, I'm sorry, it sucks to be you, because they're just raising your property tax levy, which is insane. I think it's like 5% or something, and there's no reason for them to be raising it. They've got money. I think actually in a candidate forum, you had Kathleen Lorenz talk about how they're going to have $700,000 that they just have no idea what to do with. Wouldn't it be nice to have so much money that you have no idea what to do with it? Just so much money that you don't know where to put it, what bills to pay. First, you're like, wow, I just have so much money. All my bills are paid. I've got no idea where to put all of this money. Okay. And they've got 700,000 surplus of dollars that they're taking from you with increasing this property tax levy. There's no reason to increase it. You can just keep it flat and you still get more revenue every single year if they just keep it flat, because the assessed values go up. They're robbing you. So House Bill 1496, and 1497 are what we're talking about today. But 95, what this does, it creates a $6 billion special property tax relief fund. Okay, that would provide like one-time checks to eligible homeowners. The eligible recipients would be owners who occupy a single-family residence for which they are liable for the tax payment. Okay, so if you're paying the taxes in that household, you are eligible for the $6 billion property tax relief fund. And now this is only if it passes. Look, folks, the chances of this passing very, very slim, because the lawmakers in Illinois have no interest in lowering the property taxes. They'd rather spend more taxpayer dollars doing a study or talking about it, spending your taxpayer dollars talking about lowering property taxes or conducting very, very expensive studies to figure out how to lower property taxes. It's very simple. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? If you do a $6 billion special property tax relief fund, it's kind of like, okay, you set up these one-time payments, kind of like the COVID relief funds, right? Where you got like $700 checks. I forget how much they were. But that caused rampant inflation, right? And we know that because you're spending money and you're giving people free money, and that causes taxes to go up. But here's the thing in Illinois, okay? If we were to just stop giving money to illegal aliens, if you were to just stop giving, the $6 billion to green weenie causes, funding buses, electric buses in schools, if we were to stop throwing money at all of these stupid little special pet projects, and if we were to actually give that money back to the taxpayer, then it would make sense, right? If it's already in the budget, because the budget's been increased under Governor J.B. Pritzker by so much. I mean, an insane amount of money. I mean, I'd have to look up the numbers, but the budget's really, really big. And if we were to just stop maybe funding illegal aliens or providing illegal aliens healthcare, legal services, all of this, if we were to just stop doing that and take that money and instead put it in the pockets of residents, specifically those who are liable for the tax payments in single family residences, then we would see some relief. You would see some relief. Okay, so to solve for the double-digit percentage increase in the assessed value of property, so you're probably wondering, dang, my assessed value of my property is like double-digit percentage increase. So we're talking 10, 11, 12, 13% percentage increase of your assessed value of your property. Instead of doing that, what he would say, or what this bill would do, 1496, it actually limits it to 1 to 2%. Okay, so this is an incredible bill because it just does the assessed value. So it doesn't mean market value. So you can still sell your house for, market value price, and it doesn't do anything to the market value price. But what it does, it keeps your house from being assessed at these exorbitant prices, okay, or at this exorbitant rate. So this is a really big thing in the south suburbs of Cook County. It limits 1496. This House bill limits that yearly increase on your assessed value. And this is a big problem around the state. You're seeing homeowners In 1 year, they're paying double the property taxes because their assessed value goes up so much. So if this bill passed, the assessed value may only increase year over year by 1% on residential and 2% on business properties beginning in 2026. The limitation does not apply to property that has undergone improvements. So if you do improvements, I don't know, only put a big old pool in the backyard or something, I don't know, then it would change it up a little bit. But the third bill is probably my favorite bill. Those are two great bills, and they would definitely provide some sort of property tax relief, but this one by far is my favorite. The third bill is 1497, introduced by State Representative Brad Holbrook. What this does, it freezes the property tax levies. Now, this doesn't mean that they can't keep the property tax levy flat. It just means that they can't increase it like the town of Normal just did. Okay, so it's going to keep your property tax levy at the 2025 amount for the years 2026 through 2030. This is going to provide you so much relief because the town of Normal can't come in and rob you, quite literally blind. I mean, robbing you because they don't even know what to do with this excess $700,000 that's going to come from this increase. Okay, so nearly every local government needs to figure out how to save money. They need to find efficiencies. I think that Bloomington, from what I understand, they're in a budget deficit, which is just embarrassing. But there needs to be efficiencies, and you need to stop unnecessary operations. Downtown Bloomington streetscape, that's what they're talking about right now. And they've got a budget deficit, I think, of $6 million or something. And this is a $60 million project that they're talking about. Whoa. Let's address the budget deficit, and then we'll start talking about fancy sidewalks for downtown Bloomington. Like, come on, give me a break. So this is really sad. I call it mission creep has occurred in our townships, in our cities, and in our counties, and in our schools. And they've taxed residents for services and handouts that were unheard of only a few years ago. They're going to tax you into oblivion to try to cover the maintenance of EVs, EV school buses, by the way. So don't be surprised, if your school districts, and they actually do have it on the ballot, they want to increase your levy, I think, by like 1%. Like pretty much everywhere, every school district has this on there. I think Tri-Valley, I think Unit 5, Bloomington, District 87, they're trying to increase your taxes. And here's why, folks. It's because they want to pay for things like an electric bus vehicle, like an electric vehicle bus fleet. Okay, so that's really, really hard to maintain financially, to get a bus, an electric vehicle bus to work because they break down a lot. They're not very reliable. They're expensive to buy just to begin with, way more expensive than your traditional, fuel-powered engine bus. But while this freeze is in effect, Brad Holbrook will demand that the local government distributive fund, so this is a fund where the state taxes the state residents, so Illinoisans, they tax the Illinoisans, okay, because the state doesn't make money, the government doesn't make money, they take money from you. So they'll take money from people who live in Illinois, and then they'll give it and distribute it to local governments. And that percentage that they used to take was 10% of income tax collections. Okay, so they tax you on your income, they take 10% of that money, and they put it towards the local governments. But they don't do that anymore. The state of Illinois, this is a good thing because that means the state understands the importance of local government. That's where it all kind of starts. But they took that 10% and they knocked it down to like 6%. And that's not good because now you've got local governments who are sacrificing things like public safety. They're sacrificing things like fire because they don't have this 10%. And they are also increasing your property tax levy to make up for these 10%, the original 10% percentage that they were getting. They're trying to make up that extra 4% because now they're only getting 6% from the government, from the state government. So State Representative Brad Holbrook also said that he's going to be voting against mandates. So for an example, it's a mandate, I guess, of the state. They're talking about it, and it's likely going to happen, where they're going to mandate school districts to have electric vehicle buses. where you've got a fleet of no fuel powered buses and you have to buy with, money, your money, you have to buy electric vehicle buses, and that's expensive. And of course, you're going to see school districts have to raise the property or raise your levies and raise your taxes in order to cover that cost. So it's time to stop talking about property tax relief and start delivering it. And here's the sad reality. All of these bills I discussed, Hallbrook's bills here, 1497, 96, 95, they are not going to pass likely because the state of Illinois is not serious. They want to create task forces and talk about property tax relief. They want to create a study to figure out how to address property taxes. And in the state of Illinois, we pay some of the highest property taxes. I think we pay the highest in the nation, if not the second or third. We need governments to scale back, local governments to scale back their budgets. We need everybody to be partners in this relief. So Town of Normal, you're going to have to get it together. You're going to have to cut that property tax levy. And I'm not talking just keeping it flat. I'm talking some local governments need to decrease their rate. You need to cut operations, unnecessary operations. McLean County, and I've brought this up several times, they have 2 people with this environmental health supervisor title. They've got 2 people working a nearly $100,000 salary job. It's like, whoa, let's cut one of them. Right? That's what I'm talking about here. There's so many things that you could cut. We need governments to scale back. And we need people to be partners in this relief. And these bills do that. So good for Senator Brad Holbrook, or State Representative Brad Holbrook. Illinois is consistently ranking the second highest property tax. We have the second highest property tax burden. At some points, sometimes we had the highest property tax. I think pretty consistently we're ranking at second highest now. Last month, a study by Smart Asset ranked Peoria and Rockford, Illinois, as number 1 and number 2 counties or number 1 and number 2 in the country for the cities with the highest property taxes. Okay, so we have somebody ranking Peoria and Rockford as the highest property taxes, the cities with the highest property taxes, number 1 and 2, Peoria and Rockford, which is just so sad. Last year, Money Geek, they ranked Illinois as the least tax-friendly state in the nation. And they said, quote, taxes represent about 13% of a median family's income, like 13% of your income going straight to the government. So it's insane. I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate it. Yeah, well, this judge who already said that I'm wrong about the 14th Amendment, or that the 14th Amendment, read the amendment, Dan. You've got to read the amendment. It says born, naturalized, and subject to the jurisdiction of thereof. What do you think subject to the jurisdiction thereof means? It does not mean that you have to follow American law, because we request that of our tourists and of people visiting the country. That's silly to request it of just to be a citizen. You have to follow our laws. That's not what the 14th Amendment says. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Property taxes, they suck here in the state of Illinois, don't they? Illinois residents are taxed already enough. They're taxed enough already. We need to chill with the taxes. And these bills that I talked about, 1496, 97, 95, they're going to provide some immediate relief to taxpayers. And I think that they're really good. I really like 1497. I'd like to see that one passed. But unfortunately, I don't think any of them will, because they're not serious about property tax relief. They would rather create a task force to talk about it, or a study that actually costs taxpayers more money to conduct this study to try to figure out the main causes of property tax increases. I'll tell you what the damn main causes are. You're spending money on stupid crap like electric buses, okay, or on Pam Reese's salary. So I got to look this up in the Town of Normal, because it peeves me off every single time I look it up. Pam Pam Reese is the city manager. She just got in October a 4% raise. Man, did you get a 4% raise? Probably not. Even if you did get a raise at work because of the cost of inflation and because your property tax is going up, it probably doesn't feel like much of a raise. Okay. Now I inflated this a little bit, but she does have it's now above this. Oh, hers is above. So hers is 226,000. So it increased just in October by $8,700. Now this is, outside of her health care. This is outside of all of her, perks. I'm sure she gets a vehicle, and she's making $226,000. Now that is pretty comparable, especially when you include all of her benefits and things like this. This is what Pam Reese makes. I'm going to throw that number up there. Lots of zeros. She's making a pretty decent salary if you include all of her benefits. I would say it's pretty damn comparable to $300,000 a year. Now take this into perspective. How much does the president make every year? That's $400,000. So the fact that she's making just half of what the president makes is shocking to me. There's no reason, especially considering like the city of Peoria, the guy there, he makes like $200,000 and they have way more, they like a bigger city. It's a higher population. So $400,000 is what the president shall receive every single year. So yeah, I mean, this is like, of course the president gets perks. You get a, house and everything like that. So it's a little bit more than 400,000. But the fact that I'm even comparing it and it's not outrageous to compare the two is concerning. Stop all taxing in Illinois. Wouldn't that be great? Now, one thing I did want to discuss with you is that we have 4 Planned Parenthoods in Illinois closing up. Speaking about executive orders and the federal government and Donald Trump. This is all downstream of one culture, 2, President Donald Trump getting in, and these people are freaking out. Planned Parenthoods of Illinois, Planned Parenthood of Illinois says that it's going to close down centers in Bloomington and 3 other cities as it faces financial challenges. So, I think it's so hilarious when conservatives, Republicans, we talk about Planned Parenthood and how, our government dollars go towards Planned Parenthood, and then the liberals will say, oh no, that's not true, that it's not going towards Planned Parenthood. Yes, it is, and here's proof there's proof that your government dollars go to Planned Parenthood. So the centers in Bloomington, Ottawa, Decatur, Englewood, and Chicago's South Side will close. So 4 Planned Parenthoods are being closed down. In a statement, the nonprofit Planned Parenthood said that they will add appointments to health clinics in Peoria, Champaign. So they're going to have their Peoria, Champaign locations in the cities near the other closures. They're going to take on more telehealth appointments, and they're going to try to minimize the disruptions to care. Yeah, abortions. They're going to minimize the disruption to their abortions and performing abortions by, having Peoria and Champaign kind of absorb the Bloomington one and absorb the clients from the Bloomington one, right? So, yeah, this is huge news, and I'm so excited. And really what this is all about is because they're not sure what the national administration is going to do as far as, financial help. So tax dollars towards Planned Parenthood. Yes, your government dollars yes, your tax dollars are going to Planned Parenthood. And this is proof because they're closing down because Donald Trump isn't going to be doing it anymore. Huge news. Hallelujah. Prayer definitely was answered with this headline. Planned Parenthood of Illinois says that they're closing down centers in Bloomington, Ottawa, Decatur, and Englewood, and on Chicago's South Side. 4 in Illinois are going to be closing down. So, when they say that your government dollar or that your tax dollars aren't going to Planned Parenthood, they're lying to you. I will never forget when I was in the State House and I was listening to some Democrats, and this one Democrat calls a point of order. So this is like, hey, I want everybody to pay attention to me on the floor. This was a Democrat, and she, uses the microphone and says, Planned Parenthood brought in cupcakes if anybody wants them in the break room. Like, really, it takes a damn cupcake? That's all it takes for you to write and craft legislation that destroys babies and just kills babies? That's all it really takes is a dang cupcake? But yes, your tax dollars are going towards these at a federal level under the Biden administration. They definitely were. And here's proof. In the statement, you've got the interim chief medical officer of the Illinois Planned Parenthood. They say offering medication abortion through PPD or PP Direct app. So it's Planned Parenthood Direct app. They have an app, allows patients to connect with us through their phone. So don't worry about us closing up these centers. You can still connect with us through your phone and get a medical abortion. So pills, right, which killed Amber Thurman, by the way. Amber Thurman, the woman who, took pills and bled out. And, but the pills are totally, completely safe. And we'll even prescribe them to you over the phone. You don't even have to come in for an examination or anything. We'll just prescribe them over the phone to you. She says this expands access because our patients can receive the same great care they associate with Planned Parenthood from the comfort of wherever they are in the state. Oh boy. So the group said that the cost for in-person care is rising. You can thank the Democrats for that, right? But the number of patients who need financial help is growing, and the change in national administration makes the patient care landscape uncertain. So this means, the national administration, meaning President Donald Trump, Trump's administration, is not going to be dishing out your tax dollars for things like Planned Parenthood, and he's putting a stop to it, and they're freaking out. They can't afford it anymore, Planned Parenthood, without the government dollars. And they are closing up shop. So this is great news. 4 Planned Parenthoods in Illinois are closing down. I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button and share this out with your friends. We're going to be coming back, but I am going to finish this. This is from WGLT. I'm just going to read a little bit from this article. Apparently, the interim president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Illinois, patient care is and always will be our number one priority. No, it won't be, because guess what? Abortions, if you look at every single study, women who have abortions, they regret it almost immediately, and they suffer from things like depression and suicidal thoughts. That's just facts. Okay, factually, women after an abortion or post-abortive services, they are thrown into a depressive state. Also, things like medical abortion is not safe, as is the case with Amber Thurman. You guys can look up that case. I've talked about it several times. She had a medical abortion and then drove back to Georgia and wound up bleeding out, in the hospital. She, didn't go to the hospital after experiencing complications with the medical abortion. She was pregnant with twins, and she waited until the last minute, and then ultimately she lost her life in the hospital because she bled out so much from this medical abortion. So the pills are what killed her. Okay, but the Democrats and the liberals, they'll try to frame it like Amber Thurman died because she didn't receive her abortion. She had traveled to, I think it was North Carolina, from Georgia, because Georgia has a 6-week ban. She had traveled from Georgia to North Carolina to receive her in-person abortion, but she arrived late to her appointment, so she screwed up there to have her in-person abortion. And they were like, well, you can just take this medical abortion pill, and that should do the job. And then ultimately she had complications from the medical abortion, because guess what, folks? It's not safe, the medical abortion. So patient care is not, and always will be, not their priority, okay, Planned Parenthood. But this is what the Planned Parenthood CEO said, Tanya Tucker. We've made plans for patient surge. However, rising care costs and lower reimbursement rates from insurers is jeopardizing PPIL's sustainability. Unfortunately, this is the reality of many Planned Parenthood affiliates. They're facing in a rapidly evolving healthcare environment. We are making the difficult decision today so we can continue providing care tomorrow and well into the future. Yeah. So since Planned Parenthood said that it's seen a 47% increase in overall abortion care in patients in Illinois, a lot of them being out of state, people traveling in, which isn't shocking, right? after the Roe v. Wade case or the overturning of Roe v. Wade, they've seen an increase, a 47% increase in overall abortion care and patients. Yeah, of course, when it's like shoved down your throat like it's candy, of course you're going to see an increase in abortions. An unprecedented number of out-of-state patients traveling from more than 40 states now make up nearly a quarter of the overall number of abortion patients. That's up from 3 to 5% before the Dobbs decision. So there's increased patient volume, which is really, really sad. We know that abortions go up every single year. More and more babies die. But you couple that with low reimbursement rates from insurers. Really, it's not insurers. What we're talking about is now that this new administration, Donald Trump, has come in, what we're talking about here is cutting of government funding to Planned Parenthood, which never should have been a thing. Government dollars towards things like Planned Parenthood, it just shouldn't be a thing. And now you're going to see a reduction in government dollars going to them. And now they're going to have to start closing places up in order to function. So they're going to reduce their administrative staff proportionately, Planned Parenthood. And yeah, so that's exciting. A lot of them are transitioning to telehealth, which is really dangerous. And I hope women aren't duped into this, like calling telehealth Planned Parenthood. Number one, it's abortion. Okay, they're not providing parent. Maybe they do a couple of parent classes, but they're really not Planned Parenthood. It's more like planned abortion, or like plan out your abortion with us. Okay, so they don't talk with you about being an actual parent. You want my opinion? Go to the Pregnancy Resource Center in Bloomington. They have a location in Lincoln. They're fantastic people, and they'll actually tell you and help you through parenthood. And that's actually what they actually plan parenthood out with you and prepare you for having a child. Planned Parenthood is just simply, how do we prepare you to not have a baby and eliminate your baby? That's what they do. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. When we come back, I do want to talk a little bit about Jackson Riffit. Riffit is his name. So he turned his father in for reasons that will never be properly explained. And he now claims that he's fearing for his life now that his father's out and has been pardoned for January 6th related offenses. Okay, so he turned his dad in over January 6th related offenses, and now he's fearing for his life because his dad is pardoned. Number one, it's totally pathetic, and you're clearly an arrogant person. I don't know what kind of relationship the two of you had prior to you ruining your dad's life. He had to serve time in prison in a prison by a way that was completely inhumane and treated these J6 hostages completely inhumanely. But he ruined his life. This kid Jackson ruined his dad's life, and I'm almost certain, I don't know what their relationship was prior to him turning his dad in, but I'm almost certain that his dad has no interest in visiting his son after he turned him in. So we're going to talk about Guy Riffit and Jackson Riffit, and we'll be right back with that. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, and subscribe to the channel. We'll be right back. Okay. Yes. So, Dan, it's not really funny that there is a corrupt immigration judge. I don't know. I haven't seen the news of this. Now, I know that there's like 20 plus states that have filed a lawsuit over Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship. They're saying that it's unconstitutional. I've gone through several times with you, and I've played the clip from Tucker Carlson. In fact, I might even play it again for our radio friends when we come back. But look, folks, Michael Anton best explains it. There's an op-ed out there. I encourage you to go read it. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and you have to be either born or naturalized, okay? So subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, not another country. So if your parents are subject to the jurisdiction of another country and they have a baby here in the United States, that does not mean that you are a citizen, okay? Because your parents are subject to a foreign country. Senator what's his name? Lyman Trumbull. He's of Illinois, and he's a framer of the 14th Amendment. And it's just so sad. Like, what do you think? I'd be curious, Dan, what do you think subject to the jurisdiction thereof means when it talks about it in the 14th Amendment? It's the first sentence in the 14th Amendment. And it defines what a citizen is. I'm curious what you think that sentence means. Do you think that it's, I mean, if it's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, I'd imagine, the Supreme Court is going to shut this down and they're going to say, yes, it is constitutional. In fact, things like DACA were unconstitutional. DACA, of course, was this anchor baby thing where you could come to the United States and you could anchor yourself by having a baby. In California, they actually set up what were called Chinese maternity wards where you could actually come and have your baby and anchor yourself as an illegal Chinese national. And you could come into the United States and anchor yourself through the DACA program by having a baby. That is just it's totally absurd. Does that make any sense at all? It's just common sense will tell you that that's unconstitutional. To the laws of the United States. Such a simple conception. So a baby that is born in the United States is immediately subject to the laws of the United States. Now, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, it doesn't mean subject to the laws of the state. What it actually means is you have to be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which means you have to have allegiance to that country. When your parents are non-citizens, when they're both non-citizens, you have allegiance to another country, and you're not, like we request of tourists from Canada, we request of tourists to follow the laws of the United States. So just because you follow the laws of the United States doesn't mean you're a citizen, okay? Because tourists, they're required to follow our laws while they're visiting here. Following the laws does not mean that you're a citizen, okay? Or a baby that's born in the United States has to have parents that are either born or naturalized, okay? You have to either be born or naturalized, and then the baby that's born has to have parents that are born or naturalized. You'd have to look up the debates. The senator who crafted, there was a senator from Michigan, I forget his name, in 1800s who crafted, he was a framer of the amendment, sponsor of the amendment, the 14th Amendment. You'd have to go look up the primary documents and the debates about the amendment, and they're very, very clear about who is a citizen, and they specifically talk about parents not being non-citizens. Like, you can't be a non-citizen parent and have a baby here and then automatically the baby is a citizen. That makes absolutely no sense. But I understand, Dan, you've been lied to your entire life by Democrats, and they've totally warped your brain into believing that it's not absurd to anchor yourself with a baby. Like, just forget the 14th Amendment, forget all of the words. Just think about this. Having somebody come into your country to have a baby and anchor the baby, and like the baby is the United States citizen, that makes absolutely no sense. And it's dangerous. Could you imagine, like, just everybody comes here and has their baby, but then what? We're supposed to deport the parents? Like, because they're non-citizens and they weren't born here, right? But their baby is born here, so they're a citizen of the United States. So we deport the parents and leave the baby? That makes absolutely no sense. And that's probably actually what they wanted, because the Democrats are so pro-human trafficking and babies and killing them and removing these babies from their parents. That's probably what they intended with DACA. They wanted to separate children from their families and use them in human trafficking. So No. This is not a very poor tax on my personhood. Grow up. No. I wasn't attacking your personhood. I said, you know what? The Democrats have warped your brain into believing that just because you're born here, there's two criteria: subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which means you are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, and you don't have allegiance to another foreign country. When your parents are both citizens of another country, you have allegiance to that country. They have to be naturalized, or they have had to have been born here, both born here. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going after your personhood. I didn't go after you personally. I said your brain has been warped by Democrats into believing that that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. It's actually dangerous for children. If you have non-citizens coming here and having babies, they're not considered citizens. Would you consider them citizens, the non-citizens who come here and have a baby then? Because I think that you and I could both agree that they're still both non-citizens, the parents of that child, and they come here and have the baby. The baby is, okay, sure, under your definition here, is a U.S. citizen, but the parents are not. So that means we'd be required to deport the parents and not the baby, which is probably not what we would want, right? Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. I do want to, I want to hit this really quick because, there's going to be judges out there that, rule, 20 plus states are saying that, it's unconstitutional, Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. And I'm going to play this clip. It's a little bit longer. Michael Anton, he was on Tucker Carlson's show back when Tucker Carlson was on Fox News. But he was on his show and he talks about the 14th Amendment and what it actually means. There's two criteria. You have to be born or naturalized, and you have to be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So it's actually very constitutional what Trump did with the birthright citizenship. And he said, nope, we're not doing birthright citizenship. It's unconstitutional to the 14th Amendment. I'm writing an executive order outlawing birthright citizenship. Take a listen to Michael Anton and his explanation with Tucker Carlson. This, and I know it's a little bit long, but stick with it, because anytime a liberal comes up to you and says it's unconstitutional, the executive order, or when you have a corrupt federal judge ruling in favor of the states suing Donald Trump over this executive order, listen to this argument.
Michael Anton is a former senior national security official in the Trump administration, a lecturer at Hillsdale College, and probably the first person in this generation to raise the question of whether birthright citizenship is indeed constitutional. Thank you very much, Michael Anton. You wrote this piece that I think began this current conversation this past July, and people were stunned to find out that this was not a settled matter. Most people believe this is etched on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, but it's not.
Right. And I do want to give credit where credit's due to people that I learned these arguments from. John Eastman,
yes,
a constitutional scholar and lawyer, litigator. He litigates constitutional questions. And Edward Erler, who's a student of the American founding and the Civil War era, who's done really the scholarly work on this. I learned this argument from them. They're two of my teachers. But it's true that, it had kind of gone dormant for a while.
Dormant? This is flat Earth Society stuff. So everyone believes that we have a constitutional mandate to allow the children of illegal aliens to become citizens.
And they base that belief on a misreading of the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. They leave out the part in the middle, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They either leave it out or they say subject to the jurisdiction just means you have to obey the law. Well, everybody has to obey the law. If you're a tourist coming from England or Canada or anywhere, you have to obey U.S. law while you're in the United States. That doesn't make your children a citizen or you a citizen. Subject to the jurisdiction meant something specific to the people who wrote the amendment. We know this because they said it. You read the debates over the amendment. They said it means that you don't owe allegiance to any foreign power, to anyone else. You're subject to the complete jurisdiction of the United States, which means you're not a citizen of another country. So it clearly doesn't apply to people who aren't citizens or who are born to people who aren't citizens, who are subject to the jurisdiction of another country. The Constitution is clear on that point. There's no statute that says otherwise. But decades ago, the executive branch agencies of the federal government just decided to apply this principle as if, well, we owe everyone birthright citizenship. Now, why do they do that?
And they applied it through DACA. This DACA program, Barack Obama was the one in the executive branch who just trampled all over the 14th Amendment. Take a listen.
Why do bureaucracies typically, in our country anyway, typically act without authority? Usually it's to serve the interests of liberalism. When the administrative state starts doing something that it's not authorized to do and that no one has ever told it to do, you can bet it's not doing so for conservative reasons or for reasons that benefit American citizens. It's doing so for reasons that benefit liberalism. And that's what happened in this case.
So you're hearing the argument now from the usual chorus of dumb people that this, like everything that they don't like, is racist.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of this amendment was to enfranchise people who had been African Americans who'd been enslaved.
Absolutely.
And so in what sense would this, I mean, does that argument even make sense?
No.
And I want to take it seriously.
As you say, though, it's the racist is just a cudgel with which to beat up people whose arguments you don't like. So the 13th Amendment freed every slave. You had a controversy at the time where some states were saying, okay, you can free the slaves, but we have the power to make them citizens, and we're not going to do it. So Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the same Congress, same year that drafted this amendment. That was vetoed by President Johnson. The veto was overridden, so you get 2/3 of both houses saying, freed black slaves, they are citizens. And that also says not subject to any foreign power. Well, then some of the southern states came back with, okay, well, 1857, the Supreme Court ruled in Dred Scott that no black person, even a free black person, could ever be a citizen of the United States. So the Reconstruction Congress said, okay, then we're going to put this in the Constitution. We're not going to let you get away with this. We're going to make this undeniable that every freed slave and their descendants are citizens of the United States. So an
amendment designed to enfranchise African Americans born here, been here 400 years, 500 years, is now being used by Chinese nationals
and Russians too.
Russians flying into Guam or Los Angeles to have children here. That would be not the original intent. I think it's
absolutely not. I mean, one of the things that I find incredible and amusing, sadly so, though, is the Russia hysteria of our time. Russia's supposed to be the biggest enemy the United States has right now, more dangerous enemy than in the Cold War. We're all supposed to be almost on a war footing with Russia.
Yes.
And the president is criticized for saying maybe we should cool it a little bit and turn the heat down. However, we can't question the practice of Russian women flying to Miami and having their babies to get U.S. birth tours. So this supposed enemy of ours, it's a sacrosanct principle to allow them to abuse our system by giving citizenship to their children who are born here, spend a couple of days, and then go back to Moscow.
So the real principle that undergirds it is hurting ourselves. We're required to hurt ourselves.
Hurting ourselves, and of course hurting the president.
Right.
I mean, the Russia story.
Okay, so this was years ago, but it's so timeless, and I absolutely love this argument that Michael Anton gives. And any federal judge or judge that agrees with the states suing President Donald Trump over the executive order ending birthright citizenship is corrupt or doesn't understand and is a terrible judge and doesn't understand the 14th Amendment and hasn't read it. For Pete's sake, right? There's two criteria that you have to meet in order to become a citizen subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and born or naturalized. And there's a naturalization process, which is like extremely kind of the United States. And, as I talked about biblically, you have to be kind to foreigners. Okay. The Bible tells us to be kind to foreigners, but also foreigners have to be kind to those who you are residing in their land. If you're residing in their land and you're a foreigner in that land, then you have to be kind to the person who's occupying you or having you stay there. So we're very kind. We have things like H-1B visas. We have student visas. We have the naturalization process. We're very kind to foreigners. And to suggest that we're not because we ended birthright citizenship is just outrageous. Read the 14th Amendment, darn it. All right, let's get to January 6th. This guy, his name is Jackson Reffitt. According to the Washington Times, he said that he armed himself and he changed the home locks and changed homes. Actually, he changed homes, completely changed houses to avoid a potential violent conflict with his dad, 52-year-old Guy Reffitt. So Guy, years ago, was turned in by his son Jackson for January 6th related offenses. This kid now is claiming that he fears for his life and that he's super paranoid because his dad has been pardoned by Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Up front now is Jackson Reffitt. He turned his father, Guy Reffitt, into the FBI for participating in the insurrection. And Guy Reffitt is currently in prison, serving a 6.5-year sentence for rioting at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. So obviously convicted and serving his sentence. Jackson, I appreciate your time. So here we are, and Trump is announcing pardons for January 6th defendants. That this could include your father, who's serving a 6-year sentence, a 6.5-year sentence as we speak. What's your reaction?
Well, I'm honestly flabbergasted that we've gotten to this point. I mean, I'm terrified. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've taken as many precautions as I could recently. I've picked up a gun. I've moved, and I've gotten myself away from what I thought would be a dangerous situation and staying where I thought my dad could find me. Or other people, people that are going to feel so validated by these actions, by this pardon, I'm just so filled with paranoia about what could happen. I've been waiting all day from a call from the DOJ to just figure it out and know what to do next. Because right now I don't, other than just to, sit around and, talk about it.
I mean, you're scared. I mean, you're right. I mean, you're scared about what could happen from your father specifically, or someone else.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, a totally pathetic, arrogant person. It's unclear what their relationship was before this kid Jackson ruined his dad's life. Traitor, if you ask me. I would never do that to my dad. Absolutely insane. Could you imagine turning your dad in for something so silly? I mean, what? But he ruined his dad's life, and I can almost be certain that the guy who was charged and was sentenced to 7 years. I'm going to get to that here in a second. But I'm pretty sure you're going to be the last person on the list that your dad wants to visit. Okay. So Guy, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison in 2022 on charges of civil disorder, obstruction of justice, and some other offenses. The fact that he turned his dad in without a second thought proves how delusional this kid is. And it's so sad. You're a product of mainstream media brainwashing, clearly. If you're so willing to turn in your dad, if CNN tells him that his dad is a threat, then he's going to think that his dad is a threat. And if CNN came out and said, hey, your dad isn't a threat anymore, most likely he'd be begging his dad for forgiveness. You can tell that this kid has absolutely no thoughts of his own and that he is just a mainstream media puppet. And the media despises half of the country, which includes his dad. He too will do anything to punish him for being politically incorrect, okay? Because the media wants to punish his dad and half of the country for being politically incorrect. He's going to do it. You tell me to jump off a bridge, I'll jump off a bridge, right? That's his mentality. He's just so brainwashed. And the Bureau of Prisons inmate locator tool says that Guy Reffitt was not in custody last week on Tuesday, and less than 24 hours after Mr. Trump signed a pardon for more than 1,500 people convicted in the riot. Okay, so 1,500 were convicted in the riot, and he pardoned all of them. Yay, Donald Trump. But this kid, he says he's filled with paranoia about what could happen, and he's paranoid. He told CNN he was waiting for a call from the Department of Justice to let him know what to do next. Okay, the fact that he's living in paranoia and fear tells you that this is a personal problem, and it's total nonsense. This is not news. Total nonsense that CNN is airing this kind of stuff as if he had something substantial to say. He's living in paranoia. This kid is delusional, and he has he's been brainwashed, I think, this is my opinion, he's been brainwashed by the mainstream media. He assisted in ruining his dad's life for 5 minutes of fame to get on CNN and to talk in an interview. And that's a pathetic joke. I would never do that to my dad. He didn't kill anybody, right? He didn't hurt anybody. It was civil disorder, obstruction of justice. That was about it. Okay, like civil disorder. What does that even mean? What, you trespassed? Okay, and you were sentenced for 7 years, and you turned your dad in? Come on. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Oh, so okay. So I reported the news here is that CNN has made this news. That's why I'm reporting on it. I'm not reporting on really so much the fact that he turned his dad in and now that he's paranoid. I mean, come on, this is so stupid. Like, this isn't substantial at all. And then the fact that CNN is doing this makes it substantial and worth reporting on. And the fact that this kid turned in his dad and then turns around and buys a gun, moves houses. Like, that just shows you how delusional this kid is. Clearly, your dad is probably not going to want to be around you. You turned him in. You're probably the last guy on the list that he wants to visit with. I do want to get to Pierre Polivier. I love Pierre Polivier. This woke reporter tries to play the pronoun game with him, and Pierre Polivier, of course, shuts it down, and it ends very badly for the reporter. And we're going to get to some of that, but go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. Whoa. Good morning. Happy Friday. Brr, it's a little cold, but I think it's going to warm up a little bit today. It got cold last night. I think like the low was like 0, so like negative like 20 with the wind chill probably. But no, it's like super cold outside. Last night it like got down to like 0 is the low. But I'm looking today, 25 degrees. That's not too bad. And then tomorrow, 39 degrees. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice. And then it's going to get into the 40s early next week. Oh, yes, I'm all for that. I do want to talk a little bit about Pierre Poilievre. I think that this is absolutely hilarious. The fact that leftists can't even really comprehend their own, like their own lot, like they lack logic. Okay, they can't even comprehend their own principles, and it proves how irrational everything that they believe actually is. So while they claim that there's more than 2 genders, they have trouble actually admitting it, and there's nothing more than, and it's nothing more than a deranged like law that they have that in this house we believe that there are more than 2 genders. So I'm talking about this reporter, and he was talking with the Canadian Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, whom I believe is going to be winning the next election. And he asked him what he thought about the Trump administration declaring biological facts that there are only 2 genders, one being women, one being men. Okay, there's only 2 genders, and it was a bit awkward, to say the least. This reporter had to admit he was a man, and you can even tell this reporter, like, he knows that there's only 2 genders, and he didn't even really want to ask the question. And this is proof that leftists, they can't even really comprehend their own lack of logic here, and it proves that everything that they think is really irrational, and they don't even truly believe it because they don't even really want to admit that there's more than 2 genders. Like they have trouble admitting it because it's so deranged and weird. Take a listen.
First day on the job, President Trump signed an executive order, the U.S. government only recognizing 2 genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to kind of walk in line with, or what are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Me personally?
Yes.
I'm just asking more so if you're in line with what he is saying. Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that something that you would be lockstep with if elected as prime minister?
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. I am a
okay.
People who say cis man.
There
are people there who they say they're
me too.
Gender
I'm a
neutral.
Man. Well,
you are a man. Yes, there are people there who say they're gender neutral. Yeah, they say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here, whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're seeing it, there's only 2?
I'm only aware of 2, but I mean, if you come up with another list, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm aware of 2, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone.
Okay, my favorite part of that is when he, questions Pierre Poilievre, questions the reporter. Okay, can you name a couple? Like name other genders, and the reporter does his best to like not answer the question because it makes him uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's going to make you uncomfortable because it's outrageous, it's irrational and stupid. Anybody who believes that there's more than 2 genders, it's just totally irrational. And if you were to ask those people to their face about trans ideology, they're going to realize pretty quickly that none of it's really based in reality, because he offers up these 2 answers. He says trans people, and some people say they're gender neutral. Well, when you look up the definition of gender neutral, they still use the 2 genders in the definition. They'll say somebody who's gender neutral doesn't believe that they're man or woman. Okay, so that means that there are 2 genders. Okay, because you're using the 2 genders in the definition. They don't believe that they're a man or a woman, so that means that there are 2 genders. So gender neutral means that they're, and same with trans people, right? If they didn't believe that there are 2 genders, then why would men try to become women and women try to become men? Okay, it means that there's 2 genders. Okay, because you're trying to become a woman, you're trying to become a man. We can all agree that there's two. Okay, even the leftists know how irrational this is because he was definitely uncomfortable up there. He was like awkwardly smiling, and he did not want to answer Pierre Poilievre's question of, okay, tell me, what other genders you're aware of, because I'm interested in the other genders. It's absurd. We don't claim that cats and dogs are different genders, do we? I mean, cats and dogs. There's female dogs. There's male dogs. There's female cats. There's male cats. Because they can't be anything other than that. And neither can humans. Okay, to be clear, and anything like gender neutral, it's all in the definition of, you claim you're gender neutral, you're neither man or woman. You're still in that definition saying that there's two genders, okay, and admitting there's two genders. Also, people need to stop using the term cis. Really, what this is intended to do is try to deceive the masses into thinking that anything normal is weird. No, being straight is sane, okay? You're not insane for being straight. That's what cis is. It's just a liberal word for being straight. Doesn't mean you're weird for being straight, okay? In fact, you're in the majority, okay? So do people? I absolutely love how Pierre Poilievre acknowledged just completely refused to acknowledge the insanity by questioning the reporter. Hey, okay, I'll acknowledge if there's other genders out there. Are you aware of any? And that's what you need to do. You need to find out where these people's lines are, and you need to refuse to acknowledge the insanity. And this is how it should be done. No one should ever entertain this nonsense that there's more than two genders. Okay, I think even most trans people could probably agree that there are two genders, because trans people do everything they can to become the opposite gender. Okay, so that means that we live in a society where there are two genders. We have an entire group of people who dedicate their lives and their personalities to changing the gender to the opposite gender. Okay, that suggests that there's only two. Okay, so while the US is slowly becoming more sane under President Donald Trump for now, our northern neighbors, I really hope that they get Pierre Poilievre to be in charge here. That would be awesome. Canada, they desperately need a Pierre Poilievre in charge. I'm going to play for you. This is a campaign video, and he talks about he talks about Canada being first, Canada being last, Canada being always. He's obviously a Canadian through and through, and he's proud of his country. Which is all the good signs of a good leader. Hey, are you proud of your country? I feel like that should be like a criteria number one that you have to meet if you want to be the leader of the country. You have to like the country, right?
We will be a proud nation that bows and kneels before no one, with free and independent people, entrepreneurs, innovators, explorers, workers, people who are afraid of nothing and take on any challenge, people who lock arms and unite under one flag. Canada first, Canada last, Canada always. Let's bring it home.
Okay, I love this because it says Pierre to the axe the tax. Okay, so he says axe the tax Poilievre. Okay, so he's all about cutting taxes and axing taxes. That being said, time will only tell. I think their election is like in October. I haven't really looked into Canadian politics since, Trudeau had admitted or had stepped down from his role as prime minister and said that he wasn't going to be running for re-election. They might be holding a special election. Which, I don't know how that's going to go with this election that's supposed to be happening in October 2025. But time will tell if Pierre Poilievre can make Canada great again. I definitely think he's going to win. All right, I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. Go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends when we come back. I'm going to be talking about Molly Galler is her name. I guess she's a singer. I've never heard of her. So singer Molly Galler, she comes up with this really weird song this week, and she's trying to encourage people on the internet to collaborate with her on it. And the song is titled By POC. So BIPOC. And, you know, actually Corey Byrne, he had put out there on his social media this term or this acronym, and I didn't even bother looking it up. Corey Byrne is a McLean County board member, and he had put this term out there or this acronym, and I didn't really look it up and I didn't care so much. But I guess it stands for Black and Indigenous people of color. And this is a song that she created, and I think you guys are really going to get a kick out of it. I think it's kind of funny. But she made this song, and it's going to get stuck in your head. Black and Indigenous people of color is like an acronym that the left uses, I guess, to describe people of a different skin color. I don't know. It's really weird that we've, I think it's so racist to use acronyms to describe people. I mean, they're people, okay? Who care? You're a person who happens to be Black, okay? Over 75% of Americans are white, and in this song, she doesn't include white people. So it's really not about inclusion. She didn't sing about straight people. She only sang about people who are Black, brown, Asian, and she didn't sing about white people at all. So it's really not about inclusivity because she's specifically and explicitly excluding a majority of the population. Go ahead, smash that like button. Very, very nice to see you this morning, David. Dave Murray. And then we are witnessing the collapse of the Democrat Party. What a time to be alive. Yeah, every single night I'm just like going to bed and I'm like, good. Thank you, President Donald Trump. This news about the 4 Planned Parenthoods being shut down in Illinois, that yesterday really brightened up my mood. I was like, yes, prayer was answered. Bloomington, Decatur, Englewood, and then there was South Side Chicago Planned Parenthood that shut down. I'm so excited. Like, the left will always say, oh, government dollars don't go towards Planned Parenthood. They're not largely funded by the government. No, they are, because this is proof that they are. The Trump administration came in, and now they're panicking about how they're going to be paying their staff. So they've had to close down locations, and they've had to expand their medication abortions via telehealth, which is very, very dangerous. And I almost think that it might wind up being worse where women are, seeking medical abortions. I wouldn't say it's worse, to be honest with you, because they definitely perform in-person abortions at these centers, and they're switching everything over to telehealth, and I think that that could be a potential problem. Not that abortions aren't a big problem. They are, because if you look at the studies, most women who have in-person abortive services, where they actually get the procedure, number one, the baby feels all of it. They actually move away. If you've ever seen a video, it's just so tragic. If you actually look into the videos that they of them performing this procedure, you'll see the forceps go in and the baby moves away to try to stay away from the forceps. It's the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever seen in my life. But also the medical abortions, like the pills that you take, very, very dangerous. We know Amber Thurman died from those. They'll try to convince you that the Republicans killed her with the 6-week abortion ban in Georgia. No, really, it was a plethora of poor decision-making that killed Amber Thurman, including the decision to take medical abortion pills that ultimately caused her to bleed out. Planned Parenthood has been robbing Americans for decades. That's true. Woohoo! Good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. I want to get to this singer. Now, I don't think that she's like a singer. I think she's just somebody who happens to sing on the internet. Now, I don't know. I don't think she's famous. But she recently released a song earlier this week, and she was encouraging users on the internet to collaborate with her on it and to make the song a little bit better. So let me know on the stream. You can comment. You can also text me 309-451-9299. What kind of suggestions would you give to Molly here about this song? The song is titled BIPOC. So that's BIPOC. Now, Corey Byrne, who sits on the McLean County Board, I had saw a Facebook post where he used this acronym earlier this week, and I was just like, oh, what is this new acronym? You know, leftists and their acronyms. They love the acronyms, and I just saw this, and I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to have to look that up later. I don't know what that is. Apparently, it stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, which is just weird. Why would you refer to people as BIPOCs? It kind of makes them like seem not human. It's totally racist to refer to people by a collaboration of letters. Same with the LGBTQ community, right? It kind of dehumanized them when you refer to people who happen to have a sexual orientation that's different than yours, or you refer to people who happen to have a different skin color than yours to, you know, acronyms, and you label them as, you know, this acronym or as a part of this community, and you give them an acronym. It almost makes them seem robotic and not real, which is just so, it's so counterproductive to what they're trying to do. And they wind up being racist when they do it. They wind up being homophobic when they do it. They accuse you of being racist, transphobic, and homophobic, but really, they're the homophobes and they're the transphobes because they have dehumanized people who happen to be Black or people who happen to be gay by giving them acronyms and calling them by their acronym rather than their name. Really, I don't care, you know, if you're Black, white, gay, whatever. I'll just call you by your name. That's what I'll do. Take a listen to this song. Let me know your thoughts on it, and if you have any critiques for Molly here we go.
Black and Indigenous, people of color. Black and Indigenous, people of color. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Asian American Pacific Islander. Asian American Pacific Islander. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. We all have a place in this world. We all have a place in this world.
I'm sorry, you're probably going to get that stuck in your head this morning on your way into work, but over 75% of Americans are white, and, you know, we all have a place in this world, but why didn't she include white people? Why didn't she include straight people? It's because it is all designed to be exclusive. They're not included. Not everybody's included. And we all deserve, or I deserve a place in this world as a white straight woman, right? So I don't know. I mean, she didn't collaborate as to why she made this song, or she didn't explain as to why she made this song. She did call for people to collaborate with her on this. And she says, I encourage, this is the explanation she gave. I'm sorry, I'm like laughing so hard at this song. It was just so cringy and weird. Liberals, they crack me up. I'm sorry. So she says this, I encourage collaboration on this. Anyone have any other lines to add? It's a bit of a chant. I think that I'm going to add a super high part or super low part, you know, with a high pitch or a low pitch that sings women, that sings about women. Women have a place in this world. What do you want to hear is what she asked on social media. So she asked people to collaborate on this, but it's kind of hilarious because she turned her comments off. So how am I to collaborate with you, lady, if you can't handle the truth about, you know, my critiques for your song or my additions to your song? You know, and she also forgot asexual people in here too. I mean, she just wound up excluding everyone, including the majority of the population. And these people love exclusion. They're all about exclusion. And it's impossible not to exclude the very people you're pretending to help. because you can't include everybody. That's why they with these, BIPOC, BIPOC, apparently Black Indigenous people weren't included with people of color, I guess. I don't know. And they had to add more letters to that. But they also had to add more letters to the LGBTQ. Now I think it's like IA, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't know. They got to include all these letters because it's impossible to include everyone into these communities because they're designed to be exclusive. Okay, so you can't include everybody because it's designed to be exclusive. You want to be exclusive. You're not actually, your intention is not to be inclusive. Now, I'm sure her intentions were well, but I mean, this was really, really pathetic, and the song makes no sense. I don't understand why she wanted to make this song. She wanted collaboration on the song, and she turned off the comments so nobody can give her critiques or additions to the song. So that song's going to probably be stuck in your head all day. I don't know if she was like trying to end fake trans genocide. Like I said, trans genocide, not a thing. People are not killed because they're transgender. Trans homicides, okay, are like 30, maybe a year. And a lot of those homicides come from them working in very poor environments. Trans individuals tend to work in lines of or work in prostitution, or they participate in illegal activity. I don't even want to say prostitution is a line of work. Okay, it's not. It's illegal activity, or they'll do drugs, drug dealing, and things like that. And that's where most of the homicides happen, where like a drug dealer winds up killing a trans person because they didn't sell dope correctly or didn't sell the coke correctly and they wind up dead, or you're a prostitute and your pimp kills you. Okay, so that's usually what happens with the trans homicides, and like I said, it's just such a small number, maybe 30 a year, and we're talking like United States. Okay, this is insane. Not many trans people are being killed a year. So this claim of trans genocide is absolutely insane. Nobody's out there going and killing transgender people. So I don't know why she put this up there, because she didn't even leave the comments up for people to collaborate with her on it. So I'm going to be back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Okay, one more time, because this was really, really funny, and I feel like a good laugh is happening.
Black and Indigenous people of color. Black and Indigenous people of color. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Asian American Pacific Islander. Asian American Pacific Islander. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. We all have a place in this world.
Well, I like this one. Don't quit your day job. No. Don't do that, lady. Oh my God. The liberals seem to have the musical talent. Yeah, that's one thing. So, I am really impressed with liberals in a couple of areas of life. And I'm not saying that, we should completely. I love liberals because my job, right? I've got to create content, and like this is just gold. So I love liberals in a sense that they're really good at making coffee. And surprisingly, they're really great at the theater and music, and they tend to really make interesting scene like this. Clearly she's a theater kid, right? I would imagine that she's a theater kid, or and I was in theater and choir, and I'm not saying that all conservatives aren't great at it or Republicans aren't great at it, but I would say liberals are really, they've got a talent for making coffee and creating music and theater, and being dramatic. So no, I'm not butthurt by the song. Come on, Dan. I mean, I was laughing at the thing. I mean, I think this made my day personally. I thought that this was the most hilarious thing to come across my desk this morning. And I said, okay, I was like, we're definitely playing this on the show. But definitely when you watch this, come on, it feels a bit racist to me, right? here's my friend, and he's a POC, he's a person of color, and like you wear him like a handbag, or like, you know, the wine moms, I like to call them the wine moms in the suburbs. They're like, oh, my kid that is trans, and it's like wearing your kid like a Prada bag, and you're flashing your kid off like he's, you know, a commodity. And that's the problem with a lot of this LGBTQ BIPOC crap. It's all about, you know, how can we virtue signal and make money and make us seem more you know, make us seem more virtuous and more moral than our neighbors. And that's really the most liberal anthem I've ever heard. This was a weird song. I'm glad that you really liked it. I'm really glad that you liked it, Bob. But we're going to come back in just a little bit, and I do want to talk. What else have I got for you this morning? Tom Homan, the borders are. I do want to get to this. You guys will like this. This is the illegal immigrant who yelled out profanities and thanked Joe Biden and Barack Obama for everything that they did for him. This guy has 17 criminal convictions, by the way, and he was deported yesterday. And I don't know about you, but I kind of want to be on the side where, you know, the guy with 17 criminal convictions is not like on the side. Like, I don't want to be on the side where this guy with the 17 criminal convictions, where he's at. I'd rather be on the opposite side of him. And he seems to be on the Joe Biden, Barack Obama train, okay? He threw a temper tantrum because he was being deported, and he says, I'm not going back to Haiti. He's a Haitian. And I've got this clip here for you. He's an agitated Haitian immigrant, and he wasn't named, but he does have 17 recent conviction, and he says that he's not going back to Haiti as he was placed in the police car for deportation. Fox News had accompanied ICE during the roundups, and they shared the footage of the arrest. They arrested this guy. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. I don't know about you, but I would much rather be on the side that is opposite of the guy with 17 criminal convictions. Okay, so this guy shouted out profanities. He said, blank Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. And he had like this toddler-like temper tantrum when he's thrown into the back of a police car. He's being deported. He's a Haitian. You know, Biden is the first president to intentionally open the border, by the way. Think about that for a second. He is the first president who intentionally opened our border, which I think is criminal. You're supposed to, as the president, you swear an oath to protect our sovereignty, right? You swear an oath to the Constitution, and we're supposed to remain sovereign as a country. But take a listen to this guy. Fox News, they rode around with ICE a couple of days ago, and they were doing roundups, and they shared the footage of this guy getting arrested. Now, I don't have his name, but he's a Haitian immigrant, and he has had 17 criminal convictions. And he said he ain't going back to Haiti as he was thrown into a police car. Take a listen.
Everyone. It's a frigid 5 degrees in the pre-dawn hours just outside of Boston, where this team of elite ICE officers is briefing on their targets for the day.
We're going to be targeting some extremely violent offenders today.
Within moments, the officers are on the move, with eyes on their first target.
Looks like we got movement, target vehicle coming out.
They quickly take him into custody. He's an MS-13 gang member wanted in El Salvador for aggravated murder. And he has an Interpol red notice out for his arrest.
We are targeting very violent threats to our community.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro. Everyone.
Okay, so ICE officers in Boston, they arrested multiple MS-13 gang members. They also, according to statistics here, the Trump administration, just in one day on Tuesday, so you can kind of figure maybe 300 illegal aliens a day accused of crimes. So these are illegal aliens accused of crimes. So they're deporting them first. So including an attempted murderer and child molester. Okay, that among the 300 on Tuesday that they deported, there was a murderer and there was a child molester. So that's awesome. Today was a good day. Today we took out several significant public safety threats out of our communities. This is what Patricia Hyde, ICE Boston acting director, told Fox News. Unfortunately, a lot were released by sanctuary policies, but we're here to tell the Commonwealth and the rest of the country that we're going to find them whether they're released or not. So released under sanctuary policies or released under things like the Safety Act, where you got murderers, child molesters out and about. And hey, we're going to do our best to find them. That's what ICE says. And we're going to deport them. So the fact that sanctuary cities, they're harboring these illegal immigrants, these criminal migrants, by the way, we're talking murderers. We're talking 17 criminal convictions as this Haitian had on his record. Sanctuary cities harboring these criminal migrants is intentionally neglecting the American citizen or the citizens within the state. And that's exactly why the Justice Department has ordered prosecutions and investigations into officials who are interfering with these deportation efforts or not cooperating. Okay, so DeKalb, we talked about them earlier. They're not cooperating with the federal authorities, and they said that they're going to abide by the Illinois Trust Act. No. Sanctuary states, that's totally unconstitutional. They do not have a say as to whether these people are citizens or not. Look at the 14th Amendment, and the origin of the 14th Amendment would actually bring a lot of light to people who think that the states have a say. The 14th Amendment was crafted because the southern states tried to say that the newly freed slaves were not citizens. The states don't have a say. Your federal citizenship takes precedence, and it supersedes and it precedes your state level counterpart, by the way. So local officials here, they have to protect the freedoms of Americans, and that's not possible as long as we've got these criminals, foreign criminals, and they've got these special rights that always results in Americans being treated as second-class citizens. So they're intentionally harboring illegal aliens, and that is like equivalent to protecting the worst members of society. Okay, these are the worst members of society, and it needs to end. They're not even going into the schools. They're not deporting just illegal aliens. They're doing illegal aliens who also have criminal records, like this guy, 17 criminal convictions, 17 of them. And he had said, "Thank you, Obama, for everything you did for me, bro." Yeah, and it kind of reminds me, Gabriel Calixto, I've talked about him. He's allegedly murdered Emma Schaefer of Springfield. Prior to that, he kidnapped a girl. He pled to kidnapping, got it pled down to unlawful restraint, only served 2 years after kidnapping this girl and holding her at knife point, by the way, Katie O'Brien. But he's pictured with Dick Durbin. And just a couple of days ago, there was a story that ran. Katie O'Brien said, I feel like he got out because he had connections, and Dick Durbin helped him get out. That's what I feel like happened. And, with this picture of him, thanks for everything you do for the immigrant community, Dick Durbin, kind of reminds me what this Haitian did. Thanks, Obama, for everything you did for me, man. All right, I got to go. Bye-bye. You guys have a blessed weekend. Thanks for tuning in. As always, find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We'll be back at it on Monday. You have a blessed weekend, a restful weekend, and a warm weekend. It is actually going to warm up here in the beginning of next week. So bye-bye. Love you, and we'll talk soon.